So wonderful to see everyone today. I'm so grateful to be here. I did have a wonderful trip over. I saw so many beautiful farms, and the cows were feeding on the hay, and beautiful little ponds and lakes, and I even saw some green grass. Still have green grass in December. Isn't that unusual? Well, the weather is getting a little bit more crisp though, and that kind of lets me know that Christmas is coming. We've had a mild fall, at least in Kansas City, we've had a pretty mild fall. In fact, it looks like this week is going to be pretty mild. But this weather is turning, getting a little cooler, and it lets me know Christmas is on the way. It is in the air. And our topic for today is keeping Christmas. It's actually an old-fashioned term, keeping Christmas. It's kind of like holding that sacred space for each one of us to birth that Christ presence, to have that presence be born in and through us in a greater way, and for us to hold that space for the greater community, for the world. So that's what keeping Christmas is all about. So we're celebrating the Advent season. We've lit our Advent candle, and each one of us is actually on a journey. And so last week was faith, and this week is peace, and the next week is love, and then joy. And just to explain why the Christ candle is not lit, often in Unity churches we have the Christ candle lit every week. But this time of year, it is symbolic of that dark time in the world before the birth of Jesus. So we're celebrating that as a tradition of the church. Of course, we know the Christ light is within us, but symbolically, we're going to hold off for just a few more weeks and light that Christ candle to celebrate the birth of the Christ child into the world, but most of all into our hearts. And so this is the time of the year that it is the darkest until the winter solstice. And so that Christ light will be lit, celebrating that light in the world and celebrating most of all the light of God in our hearts, which we can turn to each and every moment. So truly that Christ child is being born in us in every moment. But we're just connecting with the tradition of the Christian church by moving through the Advent season. So faith, peace, love, and joy are all divine ideas. And in Unity, we know that thoughts and mind produce after their kind. So we're going to focus on these qualities of spirit, these divine ideas, and use them as the building blocks of our lives. So these help us to more easily create a life of joy and peace and flow and ease and prosperity and abundance and joy in this world. So we're going to take this time, set it aside, making it sacred. Making this time sacred because we're like clearing our calendar. We're making room. We're making room for that baby to be born in us. We're making room to put up the tree, to celebrate the joy, the peace, putting up the decorations, to remind the world of the light that is available. And so when we do this, we can't help but be blessed and be a blessing. So it's a wonderful time of year to have this reminder as we come together in community and discuss these ideas and touch one another's hearts, and how perfect it is also that this season of Advent, this holiday season, is right before the new year, because we know what comes then, New Year's resolutions and the desire for change and new beginnings. So this is actually a time of preparation. You probably heard it as such. It's a time where we're preparing for that Christ child to be born. And I know you've witnessed a few children being born in the past few years here in this community, and there is that time of preparation, that time of waiting. And so we're reminded of Mary, Jesus' mother, who at this time would have been preparing for that birth. And what else can you do when you're preparing for a birth when you get to that certain point but wait? You continue to nurture, create a healthy environment, not only for yourself, but for that child. So the preparations are beginning. Nursery items. You're already thinking of setting up the bassinet or pulling out one that you've used for an older child, pulling that out again and getting everything prepared for that birth so that you may nurture that life, so that you may give life, and so that you may share your light with that life. So that is what we're doing this time of year. The Christmas season is certainly one of contrasts. We are perhaps more generous at this time of year, more patient. I don't know about you, maybe you're patient and loving and all that all year long, but there's just something about Christmas that allows us to just let that person in front of us in traffic, or just to let that remark go that maybe a sales clerk made. Just extend ourselves in love. It's like it's an excuse to be loving. So it can be also a time of hope and joy, new beginnings, preparedness. There's fun parties and colorful lights and time of giving and festivities. You know, there's sometimes cities have lighting festivals. I know we do in Kansas City, where they flip the lights and all the lights go on, and there's just a lot of holiday celebration. But sometimes it can be a season where we miss those who have passed, our dear ones who may have passed on. We may feel nostalgic about the way things used to be. We may miss people who were in our lives. There may be worries about buying gifts. Is this the right one? Or will I be able to purchase all the things that I want to? So it can also be a season of worry. Or we may get pulled into commercialism, become preoccupied with all the things to do at Christmas time, preparing foods and shopping and to expectations. So regardless of what is happening in the outer, we can find and rest in a place of peace on the inside. And peace is our spiritual quality that we are focusing on this week. So definitely we're going to draw upon the peace, and we're going to draw upon the faith, and building up in this time of preparation to be present for that Christ child being born in us. It's also a time of coming together with friends and family, and I see that right here. You are probably familiar with the Christmas story. Mary and Joseph, the babe in the manger, a brilliant star in the east. Is this starting to sound familiar? An angel with an inspirational message. The three wise men on a divinely inspired quest. The story of the birth of Jesus, which we tell each and every year. It's a story of hope and love. It's a story of the light of the world coming to earth. What a powerful story. No wonder we're continuing to tell this story 2,000 years later. But that light that we hear of in this story, the light of the Christ child, is the same divine light that radiates within each one of us. So it's our story too. In fact, each character in the Christmas story, we can place ourselves in that story or see that character and how that character is out picturing in our lives. And most of all, the main character is Jesus. That soft, loving, vulnerable presence of God. And that is the same presence that dwells within our hearts. We touch on this in meditation, when we are holding a baby, when we're watching the sunset, when we gaze into our loved one's eyes, when we make a wonderful dish and give a gift, we tap into that giving nature, that feeling of oneness. You know, we say in unity there is one presence and one power. This is the power that we are speaking of at Christmas time. The holidays are much more than just dates on a calendar and presents under the tree, but y'all knew that. But those are the extras. That's the icing on the cake. The spirit of Christmas, faith, peace, love, and joy, lives all year long in our hearts if we let it, these qualities, if we let them. So as we move deeper into this Advent season, this season of preparation, we can make that commitment to carry this energy with us into the new year. So my wish for us today is that this service will help to fill your heart in a new way and help you live with a childlike wonder all year long. Does that sound good? All right, you ready? So am I. So we focus on this light in our meditation in this time of year, just speaking of it often. And this is the place where we experience God. Jesus spoke of this as the kingdom of heaven, and he said it is within us. So we are reminded that that light dwells in us, that that child is within us always, ready to be born, to be birthed. This stillness, this quiet is actually the Bethlehem within our hearts. It is where we experience the divine light that is our true nature. So we are humans, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Sometimes it feels like we're just human, we forget our spiritual nature. But the truth is, the lasting truth is that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So we are really reminded of this at this time of year. This season allows us to prepare for a deepening, an awakening, perhaps like we've never had before. And we continue allowing that Christ child to be born in us because we are ever unfolding, always evolving. It's never done. We're always unfolding towards our Christ nature. So here's a little bit about the Advent season. How many of you grew up with it? I'll go ahead and ask that first. How many of you grew up with the Advent season? Just a few, or a little bit less than half. I didn't either. I often visited the Methodist church, and often it was just Christmas and Easter. And so I picked up a lot about Christianity and seasons from the culture more so than from the church. But sometimes Unity churches celebrate Advent and some Unity churches don't. So it's a wonderful opportunity to learn about some of the traditional Christian practices. So Advent traditionally is a time of expectation and preparation. It's for the symbolic arrival of the Christ. And the Latin root for the word Advent is adventus, meaning coming. Advent has been celebrated since 400 years after Jesus' birth. So that's when it started. And this season actually begins 4 Sundays before Christmas, which would have been last Sunday. So we're right on track. We're just in time for the preparation of this birth. Metaphysically, the Advent season is a time for increasing our capacity to experience our true nature. Let's get this. I think this is our core message today. The Advent season is a time for increasing our capacity to experience our true nature. So now that we know what is ours to do, we will open up for that, allow the possibilities to unfold. During the Christmas season, we retell the story of God being born into the world in a physical way and in the form of a vulnerable little baby. What better way to reach our hearts? Yes, can I get an amen? Absolutely. So in the story, the young woman, Mary, and her fiancé, Joseph, were surprised at the way that God was expressing in their lives. You know the story. How many of you are surprised at the way that God sometimes shows up for you? Yes. So, and isn't it true that sometimes life unfolds in ways that surprise us? Pleasant surprises, or ones that cause us to stretch and grow, to go beyond what we were familiar with, to express ourselves in a new way, to draw upon God in a new way. It's like strengthening that faith muscle. But we're going to strengthen the faith muscle, the peace muscle, the joy muscle, and the love. So we are going to be stretching and growing. So this is a sacred time where we make room in our lives for a deeper awareness of our spiritual nature, where we get to draw upon God in a deeper way and express that in a more full way, and help us to be more conscious. So we've got the picture, we know what is ours to do, and we know it's going to be a blessing. What an opportunity we have, actually, to prepare for the new year coming up. So many times I rush right through Christmas, through the parties, through the gifts, and then I get a glimpse. And this year it's going to be deeper. I just know it already is. Thanksgiving was really deep for me, and I just took that feeling of gratitude right into the Advent season. And now I'm going to use this time to prepare for the good that I know that God has for me. And I don't know exactly what that is. I just know it's going to be good. Have you ever known that? Maybe there was a party that a friend was having, and you'd been there before, year after year, so you know it's going to be good. And so you go ahead and get dressed up and get prepared, open your heart and show up. That is what life can be like, a wonderful party that God has already prepared for us. And Advent is also a time of active waiting. Active waiting. Now, for me and my personality type, I haven't done a whole lot of active waiting, not as much as I would like to. It's a time of preparation, but it's a time where perhaps the changes in the outer aren't as obvious because we are pregnant with possibilities and the baby is not yet born. It's still being nurtured. So whatever that baby is for you, it could be a wonderful career opportunity, a way of serving. Maybe you're going to discover it at the meeting this afternoon, what is for you, what you are pregnant with, and yet you do not know yet, is it a boy or is it a girl? You don't know how it's going to outpicture, you just know it's going to be good. So it is an awesome time to be prepared by life itself, by God, and that we have this quiet time. So I'm actually grateful for this downtime where it may look like things are the same, but they're not. They're about to transform and bring joy to the world. Absolutely, right in through each one of us. So many of us may have longed for a new beginning in our lives, whether it's a fresh start with a relationship, just a new feeling, or a new job position, some prosperity. We have longed for the new, but in our culture, sometimes we forget that something has to end first. It's the old way of being. And again, I'm going to bring it back to the analogy of bringing a child into the world. And there are some things you let go of, the old way of being, because there is a new life to tend to. Again, whether you've just graduated from a training program or from college and you're about to step out into a new career or a new relationship or bringing a new child into your family, things will never be the same. They will always be different and unfolding, changing, growing, and that can be a little scary. But we've probably walked through change before, and that's what we're being prepared for now, is for what is coming. And it may not be the outer that changes, it may be us. Sometimes that's even scarier. You mean I have to change? Why can't I just stay the same and my life get better? No, we will be changed at depth. And that is part of the new birth, the new awareness, this new consciousness that is coming. And so this time of waiting is a time of just pressing the pause button, just putting life on hold, yet still deepening and preparing for what is to come. So it can be a time of being right where we are for a while, this symbolic time of the coming of what is yet to come. So I'm learning that those times that may be slow to move, those times where I'm bored or frustrated that change is not happening, have you been there? Yes, we've all been there. Those are the times that life, God, is just putting me on pause for a bit so I can continue to grow and be ripe for the picking. So in other words, like you don't want to pick a plant before it's ready, an apple. You don't want to pick it before it's ready. You want to leave it on the vine a little bit. They say, we'll serve no wine before it's time. So leave the grapes on the vine just a little bit. Let them ripen and be ready for the elixir, for the beverage, for what is going to nurture and sustain. Often one of my goals is to actually be more spiritual each year, whether it's a quality of peace or love that I desire. I say each year, each Christmas, I want to make room for the Christ presence. I believe we all approach Christmas in this way, for this Christ child to be born in my heart. And so this year, I've actually picked my word of the year. We often pick it for the White Stone ceremony, but I picked my word ahead, or it came to me. Maybe it picked me, and it's the word flourish. The word flourish. So that is perhaps what I'm being prepared for now, is for what is to come, for those changes that are to come. And this week, we're going to focus on peace, and perhaps, and I'm sure, that peace plays its part in me flourishing. In the book, The Eye of the Storm for Teens, written by Reverend Jane Simmons, there is a story about a king of his land. And you may have heard this one, or not, but it's about peace. And so he commissioned the artists in the community to depict peace. And so there was a large contest held, and many paintings and drawings came forth that depicted peace, and it was narrowed down to two. The first one really looked peaceful. It was a calm lake with the sun shining on it. I can imagine the water of the lake was sparkling with the sunshine. It was a beautiful day with just a few puffy clouds, and the trees were all nice and green, very peaceful. Sounded lovely. And the second painting that the king was, they had narrowed it down to two. The second painting that the king was looking at really didn't look like the first. There were jagged mountains in the background, and a storm was rolling in, so the sky was gray and the clouds looked ominous. And then there was a rushing waterfall right in the middle of the picture. You could just see it, and the jagged edges of the mountain and branches poking out. It just really looked rough. But if you look close enough, you could see a little bird's nest in one of the branches. In the midst of all that chaos going on, there was a bird sitting on her egg. And the king picked that image for peace, because we can have peace in the midst of all that is going on. We can nurture and create that environment, that egg, that new life that is coming forth. And so as we move into the rest of this holiday season, may we remember peace in the midst of conflict. May we begin to think about what is the Christ presence bringing to us this year. So I've often said I wanted a new beginning, and yet I didn't let go of the old. And with that image of peace in the middle of, I can just know that I can just let go of all that is around me and focus on what is right here. There may be a rushing waterfall in your life, or a jagged mountain, or a storm rolling in, but right here and right now is the presence of peace, the presence of God. And so we just take this idea into prayer as we close out this time in the service. We keep our awareness on God, on that place of peace within our very own hearts. And we give thanks. We feel that light infusing us. And we bless our dear ones, blessing the world, any situation that may be blessed by the light of God, by the presence of peace. Advent is a special time, and we continue to set aside, to pause, to give thanks. Thank you, sweet, sweet Spirit, for making all things now clear and all things bright. We know that we have all that we need, all the faith and all the peace that we need to fulfill our destiny, and we envision ourselves stepping forward in confidence, giving thanks for the natural unfolding of our highest good. And in this holy moment, all is well, and we are grateful, and so it is. May your Christmas season be one of thoughtful reflection, thankful celebration. The Advent journey is one filled with faith, peace, love, and joy. May you know deeply the Christ's presence within your very own hearts. God bless you, and namaste.
Thank you.